Brews and Banter.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, Roman.
And Ben, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Tell everybody about yourself and how you got here, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so
Not out of the womb. We don't want it from the very beginning.
well, I mean, we like to go way back sometimes, right? It's a good story. So my name is Ben Tallini. I'm the owner of Haven Jiu Jitsu right here in Baldwinsville. And basically, I saw you guys pop up on the Baldwinsville Greater Commerce thing or whatever it is, talking about doing podcasts and things like that. I was like, what better way to support local business and build up the community than come in and talk to you guys?
That's how we feel. That's why we want to bring as many people here locally as possible, and we're honored to have you here.
Well, thanks.
And how long have you been in Baldwinsville?
So I've been in Baldwinsville maybe like 14 years, and originally was basically from like Liverpool area. So I've kind of been in the area my whole life. But, yeah,
You were born in Central New York.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. And then when you moved to Baldwinsville, that's when you opened your school?
No. I opened my school right after COVID was over. So I was training at another place in Liverpool for 16 years. Decided it was about time to do my own thing at that point. And I was like, Baldwinsville's here. So
Tell us how you got into jiu-jitsu and why jiu-jitsu?
yeah. So when I was growing up, a family member ended up doing something fairly bad and was going away to prison. And I knew basically at that point in time I had X amount of years to put myself in a place where I could defend myself when they get out of jail. So I ended up doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and OCS for the Marines when I was in college, and I was like, what better way to become a badass and learn how to defend yourself? And then moving forward, I just got addicted to Jiu-Jitsu, and that ended up being what I did. So
You started the military?
so I never served. So it was cool. At the time, it was cheaper for the Marines to pay people to learn how to fly the new F-35s and retrain the old officers. So I was doing electrical engineering at UB, and I'm short. So I was like the perfect height to be like a fighter pilot, basically. And as far as I know, it's the only time that they were ever giving out guaranteed letters to go to flight school as long as you pass the test. So I passed the test. OCS is like a big summer program. So you train all throughout the school year, and then they send you down for either a 10-week or a 6-week program. Did that. Met my wife. She was not about the military life, and that was it. So I ended up doing the military.
So you trained to fly F-35s?
So I didn't actually get to go to the flight school or anything like that, but had I graduated college and signed my letter, they would have sent me off to go learn how to fly F-35s.
My son loves like military aircrafts. There was a nonprofit air show, like aircraft show of like old school aircraft.
Yeah.
In Syracuse Airport. So if you buy any flights, that goes towards nonprofit and it's a write-off. So we bought him a flight on a BT-9 or 6 or
Okay,
like
that's pretty awesome.
Old school training, like military training airplane.
Yeah.
And I think that's the plane they used for the first women's fighter jets.
Okay.
And yeah, he like flew in this plane.
Oh, he probably loved the crap out of that.
God. He didn't even know it was a surprise.
Dude, honestly, if he's ever thinking about doing the military in the future, I strongly recommend him doing engineering. They look for people like that and snag them.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, his favorite plane is F-14.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, I will never fly that plane.
Why not?
Because they don't use it anymore. Yeah.
They're like ancient. Remember,
You can buy one for him.
When the podcast takes off, you guys are like, Rogan, buy a few of them.
Yeah. Right now, we could buy like a sticker on it.
Yeah, a sticker.
Really nice sticker, though.
So after that, you said you met your wife, and then you moved to Liverpool or Baldwinsville?
So I grew up in Liverpool, so that was college. Post-college, we kind of came back. We kind of floated like Phoenix area, Liverpool for a little while, and then we ended up moving into Baldwinsville when we had kids.
And then after COVID, you opened jiu-jitsu?
Yes, yeah. Things got a little wild at the place that I was training at during COVID. Didn't like some of the things that were going on. And at that point in time, I kind of built up a pretty major following for my specific class because I taught the noon classes. And it was time for me to move on and do my own thing.
I find a lot of people take martial art classes. They advance pretty high. And I think they get their own taste for the art. You know, the people have different personalities. People have different strategic like thoughts of how they want to maybe teach,
100%.
or how the sport maybe or art should be applied, and then they go off on their own.
Yep.
And it's good. I think that's what keeps these martial arts are alive, is because people like yourself.
Yep.
You learn it, you go out. And when you have a good instructor, they're like good mentors too, that they're happy for you to do that.
Yes, that's not common in the martial art
That's
world.
so unfortunate.
But, yes.
I'm going to talk to you about that later. But so you moved down and you opened your own school with like your own style?
So it's still Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not one of those things where, like, you'll see a lot of the time in karate, people like name their own stuff. It's not like that at all.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
at that point. Yeah. So yeah, open up my own place, and we've been crushing it ever since. It's been pretty, honestly, we've been crushing it so much. I wasn't expecting to be where we're at, like maybe in like 15 years, not at like year 3. It's been absolutely
Yeah, you
ridiculous.
said you're growing pretty quickly.
We
right?
are the biggest school now in Central New York. I believe one of the biggest in the country. We're ranked 9th in the world for grappling industries. We've got guys placing on the biggest stages at world events. Like, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome, man. So you opened the school right before COVID?
right after.
Oh, right after COVID.
Yeah, which
I mean,
worked out-
jiu-jitsu was
yeah.
already popular.
Yes.
And I don't have to say this, but the Gracie family really what made jiu-jitsu popular. And I mean, it wasn't originally, I don't know, I'm sure people can just look it up, but where jiu-jitsu comes from. But
Probably Brazil,
thank
right?
you. No. Thank you to Gracie family, obviously, for really, which son went and fought the...
Hoist Gracie. way
Hoist,
back in the
thank
day,
you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but I didn't want to be wrong, especially in front of you. But yeah, he really went out there, and I think his father was like, "Don't hurt people, right? But just show them what this art can do." And then when MMA got popular, they're like, "We got to have it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think MMA is like the next level of what brought the popularity of jiu-jitsu.
100%. Between MMA, especially being one of the only sports that was pretty active during COVID, and Joe Rogan. I mean, you don't have everybody knows those two now, and
Yeah.
they just push jiu-jitsu, which is awesome for all of us that have been doing it.
Absolutely. And some of his friends, good friends who are in jiu-jitsu as well, they promote it as well. And just people that I meet, and I've done different martial arts. I'm learning jiu-jitsu too.
Nice.
You have to have it. I always say my career is real estate and construction.
Yep.
So you need to have the right tool in your tool belt.
100%.
And if you don't have jiu-jitsu, you're missing a right tool.
And you really got to knock the shit out of those people buying houses and stuff. Force them into.
You never know.
Make them submit into
Sign that contract.
I'll
You're
tell
gonna
you.
tap out.
I'll tell you what, man, and I'll get into this strategic stuff later. But you really need to have. If you're on the ground, you got to have that art.
Yeah.
If you're on your feet, whatever else applies that fits you. But I'm just happy for people like yourself continuing to promote that, and tell us the programs that you have started to. You said your school grew really fast.
Yes. Yep.
How many students do you have?
So we are floating between like 450 and 460 right now as far as students go.
And then how many of those students, percentage-wise, are law enforcement?
A lot. I would say probably like 30% of our base right now is law enforcement, which has been awesome. Awesome.
Before I started doing jiu-jitsu, I studied. You familiar with Kali?
Yeah.
Studied Kali for about 8 years.
Yep.
And Kali has it's all weapon based. They have a branch that calls Dumag.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Dumag now.
Dumag is same as jiu-jitsu, but like gouging eyes out.
Okay.
Ripping your ears off. What it's it's a ground combat.
Gotcha.
And then a good amount of students in my school were also law enforcement, military. Actually, I was still in school where one of the students contacted our instructor. He said he was on base in Afghanistan at that time.
Okay.
He's like, I went to take a piss, and I got attacked by a guy with a knife.
Jesus.
On the base?
Yeah, on the base.
So his own, like,
No. It's one of their subcontractors they hire or whatever.
fuck, yeah.
Yeah, so attacked him with a knife, and he was like, I mean, you get cut up. I always say this. You're going to fight somebody with a knife, you're going to get cut.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
Yeah, people think just because, like, I learned Kali, I'm like, you can't cut me. Like, bullshit, I'm going to get caught. And you
Might
need to,
bleed out slower.
you need to expect that. But I say, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get caught, but who's going to go home in the end?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you need to be mentally be prepared to get caught, because if you're not and you get caught, it's
Right.
a shock, right? You have that moment of shock, and then how long is it going to take you to snap out of it? But he just called and to thank our instructor, like, thank you. I mean, I'm pretty sure muscle memory kicked in. I did what I had to do, and I survived. They fucked that dude up later.
I mean,
bet.
you're taking a piss, and this is where guy wants to attack you.
Yeah, he's like,
Weird, you know?
So I think that, sometimes when they have like subcontractors or you never know when you're gonna face somebody
Yeah.
crazy like that. But so you're training with a lot of law enforcement. There's a program you're doing, right? Can you
Yes.
tell us about that.
Yeah. So I like talking about the program. It's good to get this information out there.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So we're going to be right now. We are currently running the first longitudinal peer-reviewed study of its kind for law enforcement, showing that consistent training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu leads to consistent positive outcomes. So we first started working with the Syracuse Police Department. Buckner was the police chief at the time who kind of okayed this because they were looking for ways to help with some of the use of force problems that they were having. So they ended up bringing our program on, and the nice thing about it is so we get all of the recruits for 6 months during their academy, and we train them 2 times a week. After the academy, we hope that they join up, but regardless if they do or not, we compare their use of forces with other either different academies locally or against other recruits that have gone through the academy previously, and we're trying to demonstrate that through that training that they get, which is quite a bit more than they normally get, that they would have lower use of forces in the field. And then the hope is that later on down the road, when we publish the longitudinal portion, that we can show that, hey, law enforcement is severely undertrained. They need to be trained the entire time consistently that they're a law enforcement officer so that everybody is safe for law enforcement and the public. So
It's like when I first heard, like, defund the police.
yeah.
It's like opposite. Give them more money. Like, you're defunding it, you're going to create more problems.
So, in all seriousness, that's kind of what started it way back when. So, training jiu-jitsu, wherever you train, there's always going to be a decent law enforcement base or military base, like because they know how good jiu-jitsu is for them, right? And even at our gym back in the day, we had a lot of people who were very left-leaning all of a sudden hop into the defund police without really knowing what was going on and start shitting on officers. And I'm like, you literally train with these officers. Like, I understand there's a few bad eggs, but there's a few bad eggs in everything. Everything. And so we're sitting there like, cops are undertrained, and now you want to take more money from them? What a fucking clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Did you see an article recently? There was a contractor that, like, stole people for money.
No.
He took contracts and
Oh, the plow guy you're talking about. Is that what you're talking about, or is this something different?
he's a contractor. And
I've seen the plow guy.
Yeah.
Everybody's bitching about that guy.
I hope it's not my guy. There's a contractor who, like, took hundreds of thousands of dollars and just didn't do the work. There's one family in Baldwinsville. He dug the hole in the backyard.
Oh, Jesus.
And just left. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the hole is really close to the garage concrete slab.
Yeah.
The footers for the deck are exposed. They're gonna like slide off, and so he's going to prison. But so it's like, what? All the contractors are bad. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like that everywhere. And it was when I first heard it, I was like, fuck. It's a fuel to the problem.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, and it's so accessible now with all the social media. Everything is like instant. And then someone wants to believe the first thing you heard, and there's no research going into what the truth is. It's a like you said, it's a clusterfuck.
Like, there's no thought behind it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping this program you're doing is going to really open the eye. How long is the actual training that they get in the academy for, like, hand combat?
Yeah, so it's usually done over. They do their training in blocks. So I believe the total amount of training that they're required to have is 40 hours but it's usually spread out over a 2-week period. And that is it, like, for the rest of their career. They might have, like, refreshers and things like that, but I know some of the smaller departments don't do that. So you basically have to hope that you're taking this young person that comes in wanting to be a cop, and you can train them enough that not only can they survive against a hardened criminal, but overcome that hardened criminal without having to use excessive force. Like, good luck. Good luck.
I looked up statistics of police encounters, hand-to-hand combat. I think just under 90% end up on the ground.
Yeah.
That's why I think like having jiu-jitsu and then another art on your feet is like a perfect combination. So you have the defense on your feet, you get to the ground, you dominate.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And that's awesome that you're doing that.
And really, at the end of the day, because as much as I'm pushing jiu-jitsu, regardless of what program they end up wanting to implement, it just needs to be consistent. Like, I just think this 2-week, nobody can remember any, like, if you, like, whatever certification you're doing, it's just checking a box, and it ends up being completely useless down the road. And it puts officers in a horrible position because they're out there scared for their lives, but the state's like, hey, you checked the box, like, that's on you now, you should be good to go. And it's like, that's bullshit.
But physically, there's got to be all kinds of, I mean, if you were to stick with it, the confidence, and then, you know, I'm sure you stretch things like this. So all these people that, you know, maybe get relaxed in their job.
Yeah.
You're doing this, and you get a little older. Maybe you don't feel so old because you're sort of been through this training. You're still doing all the stretching, and again, that confidence is there. So, like you said, I don't ever understand this defund. I don't know what that would do. That's like apocalypse.
It would just create more problems.
What does that mean? You know,
it would just create more problems.
Let's just defund food. Like, just quit feeding people. Okay.
Now you're gonna have less police officers who know how to handle themselves. Physically, you know, in physical combat.
And in the cases that they don't know how to handle themselves, that's when there's going to get other legal problems that could arise.
100%.
You know, so like at least you can kind of mitigate some of those longer term or more serious issues.
Well, so that is actually one of the benefit of me not being law enforcement and doing this. So if you're in the law enforcement field, you can't really talk about having not enough training because now you've just put everybody in your department being liable.
Right.
Right? But me as an outsider, I get to come in and be like, guys, that doesn't look right. It doesn't look like you have enough training. And it's not me putting liability on them. It's me showing, like, hey, we're trying to show that you don't have enough training.
And not just saying it, you're offering to help fix it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like an outside audit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, let's bring somebody else in and see if we're doing things right.
Yep.
And there's really no shame into having to do that and admit that we're fucking up.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, this isn't working. Because as a human, when you are threatened, your first reaction is the best sign of defense, right? So if you are not trained how to handle those situations, what's the first thing the police officer is going to do? What's the first best defense? Is to draw a gun.
100%, yeah.
And you get these shootings that then makes cops look bad.
Yeah. Yep.
I think personally, and let me know if you feel the same.
Your dick.
Everybody knows that. If you have martial art training for, let's just give it at least 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
You are better at a situation assessment, situation awareness, and de-escalation.
Yeah.
I feel like those people who have the martial art training, they know what their capabilities are. They know what's more dangerous or not as dangerous. They know how to distance themselves. They know how to talk to people. You know, in the night. A lot of martial artists are just not a lot. A good bit are very very nice people.
Yeah.
You went from almost all of them.
Yeah, because there are dicks. Like we said earlier, there are assholes in every. I just want to be as close.
All right, just kind of clearing that up for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I stopped myself because I don't want people to be like, he's full of shit. But a good bit of them are just nice people. And I think they are able to really assess the situation and de-escalate it before reaching the lethal
100%
level. Right? And I think it comes from confidence.
Confidence and just knowing, like, so coming back to the knife portion of it, right? So because you train Kali and you now know, like, if shit does hit the fan, no matter what I'm getting cut, it's no different than with a fight. Like, you want to de-escalate. You don't want it going to that if you can help it, especially if you know training.
Yeah.
Because you know there is always that X factor. Like, maybe I catch a punch that I wasn't ready for. Maybe I get cut. Maybe I get knocked out. And then who knows what's going to happen.
I'll use myself as an example. You said I'm a dick. Yeah, I used to be when I was
I'm
little.
not the only one. It's just that you're a small dick.
Were you talking to my wife? I was like a troublemaker before. Like I was like, what'd you say to me? Or like, just surrounded by a group of guys you get influenced by and then you become an asshole, right? So, but when I started training martial arts, over the years, I found myself, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Or I'll just walk away from this. Or I'll be like, why are you so mad at me?
Yeah.
Like there's a dialogue that can go back.
And I think as you get more and more, I mean, I'm not sure how old you are, but you get more responsibility. You realize what you could
lose.
Yeah. Or what kind of impact. I mean, so, monetarily, whatever this is legally, but also, you could get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, like you have different perspective on things when you're sort of not doing this for a living.
It's almost like when you have specific skill or tool, you feel like the outcome could be not what you're hoping for. Like, I have concealed carry. I feel like I am better behaved when I'm carrying than I'm not. Yeah. Not that I turn into an asshole, but
right. No, same. There's things you can't do while you're carrying.
Yeah. So it's just
now it's like inherently like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go get shit faced.
Yeah, right. Or I'm not gonna respond to this guy calling me a dick.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I'll just walk away.
Yeah.
So I feel like having that tool, that martial arts skill, is like, do I need to use it? Mm-hmm. Do I really need to? Like, is it worth it?
Yeah, no. 100%.
But I think for law enforcement, it's like necessary.
It's I mean, just you have to put hands on somebody for anything that is an arrest. If you're putting cuffs on somebody, you're putting hands on them, right? So there's just no way around it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we want to feel like our law enforcement can protect us, not the other way around if we had to, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're not getting the training they need, they're not protecting.
Well, and to be clear, I mean, we talk about law enforcement and some military, but this is applicable to anybody.
100%.
Women, children, teenager, any field. Like, it's just, this is the program you have, but you'll welcome anybody that wants to do this.
Yep.
And I've heard some schools that would have problem with females rolling with males.
Yeah, that can be a problem at some places. Obviously, you guys have done some research on me a little bit. Like, that's not a problem in our gym. Like,
good.
It's important that everybody's comfortable with everybody. At the end of the day, we're just there to make each other better, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter if it's a man, girl, whatever. Nobody cares. We're just
like in our school, we have a couple females in jiu-jitsu class, and never been like, oh, I don't want to. He's a guy. It was.
But you'll work with that if that is the case.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Because we've had. I'm thinking back, probably one person where it was like a religious thing where they weren't able to roll with women. It's like, okay, it's okay, not a big deal.
Yep.
Don't care. So.
Oh, other way around. A guy didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, I never heard that before.
Yeah, like I believe it was Muslim, just could not hold
and whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah, just figure it out.
That's good that you have this, and you have all women class.
Yep. We were the first school in Central New York to have an all women's class program, which is pretty awesome. And it caught on so fast that basically every other school in Central New York added one as well, which was awesome to see. Because honestly, it's a self-defense martial art. If anybody needs it, it is women at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So the more women that we can get training, the better. Yep. So
and what's good about that too is it doesn't deter women from being interested in the sport.
Right.
So if they walk in like it's prominently male.
Right.
I mean, as a guy going into a gym, it's scary. I'll never forget the first time I ever walked into a gym. It's basically a bunch of shirtless dudes with tight shorts, all juiced out of their minds.
Yeah.
I think I was like 18 or 19 at the time. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, nobody comes up to talk to you. I grabbed the flyer, walked out, and sent out an email. That's how I started. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Those tight shorts, there's an issue there.
Yeah, the old bad boy shorts. Oh, man.
Well, that's no gi.
Yeah.
No gi rolling. It's like wrestling. You've done wrestling. You had guys' balls on your face.
It's not limited.
Singlets might be worse.
It's not even limited. It's just wrestling. It's like the locker room and at Roman's house.
Yeah.
But I got half and half. I got over 20 years of wrestling and then over 20 years of not wrestling.
Right.
So you're mediocre.
Yeah, so I'm the jitsu part. I'm not the whatever it is. I don't have the.
I bet your wrestling outfit was like that Borat one.
I bet you I could kick your ass in wrestling. I bet you I'd
I
fucking
did
smoke
Greco
you.
wrestling.
I don't give a fuck. I bet you I'd smoke you. Not like smoke you, but
All right, I'm gonna de-escalate it. I agree with you.
that's what this table's for. We used to have a
It is
smaller.
a big table. That makes sense.
It used
now.
to be a smaller table.
Yeah, we were closer than he was playing footsies with me.
That wasn't my foot.
You can see we bust each other.
Yeah, it's good.
But
That should be.
I bet that's the atmosphere in the gym.
Yes.
Is there a lot of ball busting?
All we do is ball bust. In fact, I don't like the traditional martial art like bowing and professor and master and sensei and all that stuff. That drives me up the wall, especially like where we are in this day and age. Like
There's a place for it. It's just not with you.
100%. Yeah, and some people might be looking to that. There are some people like for kids programs like that does instill like an extra like respect level and teaches kids respect. My goal is to just make you very, very good at the martial art.
Yeah,
that you're doing.
yeah.
And to have fun in doing it. I think it just keeps people in the martial art longer instead of getting burnt out. So yeah, we bust balls hard constantly at the gym.
Sometimes I would hire somebody new, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a pretty big ball buster. I don't want to send you home in tears." So now I said that, right? And he was like, "I'm not gonna cry." Right?
Game on.
It's like a mental game, right? So I
Challenge
say,
accepted.
"Hey, man, I don't want to send you home in tears. So if I'm too much, let me know." So now he's not gonna say anything.
See, that's the black belt level head game right there. That's good.
As long as you can separate, that from being serious, because there's, we're serious here. We do serious things also, but you kind of work with who you're talking to, and it is a serious topic, and I like the fact that you're not really smashing any other program. I mean, you're all for it. I mean, if you want to go there, go there.
100%.
You do what you do, but everybody has a place somewhere.
Yeah, and I think it makes the gyms better, right? Because if I ran into the thing where I'm trying to like convince people that wouldn't fit in at my gym to stay at my gym, then that just ruins the atmosphere for everybody.
Yeah.
And that is the nice thing. Like since COVID, I believe pre-COVID, before I opened up, there was 3 jiu-jitsu schools that I would consider like full-time jiu-jitsu schools in the area. And now post-COVID, I think we have 11, which is awesome. And not only is there so many, but the sport has been growing so fast that everybody seems to be doing well also. So they all get to have their own atmosphere at their gyms. People gravitate towards where they feel more comfortable. And it works out for everybody because it makes it easier, at least for me anyways, to keep the fun atmosphere that I have. If you don't fit in, cool, go somewhere else. It's fine.
Yeah, there's no animosity. It's just sort of make it work. Yep.
My take on martial art, and I said I'm going to touch on this later, not to like talk shit about other arts, but I feel like martial arts supposed to be tailored per person or situation. Like there's no one art that's like best for fits everybody in all situations.
Yep.
I feel like, I said earlier, if you're in law enforcement, jiu-jitsu, absolutely, and then pick an art that's on your feet, maybe something like Kali or Muay Thai or something that on your feet you have a defense. Somebody else might be not comfortable with like being on the ground or weapons and shit like that, so maybe they'll just go like a traditional karate and that's just good, that fits them, or whatever. So I feel like it, because we have different varieties of martial arts, and so many different types of people, there's an art that will fit you.
100%.
Isn't there one that you don't like, that you just don't agree with? Did we talk about this before? Like
Myself?
Yeah, like one that's very aggressive, and I thought we talked about this before. There's something you just, you didn't feel that was
Art that I didn't like?
Now listen, I will shit on arts though that I don't think are applicable in a
which
self-defense situation. Basically anything outside of that's not working in the UFC. So if it's not Western boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, and maybe like a few others, I do think it's bullshit for self-defense. And I even think like Krav Maga, unless you are training with somebody who is literally from the Israeli Special Forces, that person's a fucking fake.
Yeah.
So it just putting that out there, I think it's great to use to get in shape and things like that. Actually, Also, some of the karate schools around here are actually very, very good. Like Andrello's and DeSimone's, they're putting out like world-class kickboxing champions. Awesome. But in general, garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not all arts are designed for the self-defense.
Yeah, 100%.
So you can't use.
Tai Chi or something.
Yeah, that's more.
Or Steven Seagal. But yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Well, he's fucking Russian now anyway. Right?
He's a Russian. He's a cute guy now.
Fucking
Oh
weirdo.
my god, he looks like he ate a Russian. So, yeah, not all martial arts, and just so not people don't get confused, not all martial arts are for self-defense. I mean, because of martial art is growing, different styles. You need to get better and better because you might go up against someone who actually studied in the martial art.
Yes, yeah.
So, is there something that you train police officers for? Like, do you guys do scenario training?
Yes. Yeah, so the police academy already does some pretty actually amazing scenario training. It's just the same thing. They just should do reviews constantly. Like it should be done more through the year. So the nice thing about the jiu-jitsu stuff is jiu-jitsu is one of the few martial arts you can basically go 100% on each other without causing injury. So we do a lot of positional sparring where we'll say like, hey, this guy's got you down in the mount position, which is nothing more than basically somebody having the leg straddled past the guard on top, right? And we're like, you have to be able to either get up or get on top. You've got 45 seconds to do it. If not, there's a punishment like burpees or some bullshit. But it gets them used to getting in those high stress situations repeatedly until they get used to it and they're not freaking out, and then they can be calm and deal with it with the appropriate technique. So lots of positional sparring in the academy. And the nice thing about the study so far is we have been able to show a reduction in overall injuries during the academy by them going through the program, because the first 2 weeks are nothing more than like shrimping and back break, just learning how to fall and move around properly. These people come in and I'm like, Jesus, it's like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are going to hurt yourself just walking around. But after those 2 weeks, it's like, oh shit, like they can move around. They're not going to trip and fall and break everything in their body. So yeah, it's been pretty
And
awesome
it's
to
like
see.
it's not their fault. It's like
No, it's
that's
not,
what they were left with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
you just don't know any better, but you've got to probably teach a lot of hip positioning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of control there.
So like sprawl is one of the first things that we start off with. And some of this stuff we have to tailor and modify to just because we only have so much time with them. So you can't get too much into the weeds. It's very much like taking like a 6-month fundamentals program. Like here, you guys now have enough base where you're not going to hurt yourselves or others. And then hopefully you continue to get more advanced training after.
Yep.
So with all the stuff that you guys have put together for law enforcement, is there data collection?
Oh, yeah. So we do a survey, which is done at the beginning, middle, and end, and that we use to measure, like, confidence rating. So it's kind of funny. When they first come in, before they've taken a single class, we're like, how comfortable are you with an altercation? Let's say it's a, not to quote the actual way that we do the study, but let's say it's a 1 out of 10 scale. They'll come in at, like, 7s. Now, these are people who've never been in a fight
7
in their
mean
life.
they're comfortable with that?
Comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
7 out of 10, okay? I'm like, yeah, sure you are. So then we proceed to go through the program, and of course, they're getting the shit beat out of them. Now they understand, like, they really didn't know anything. So midpoint survey, it's like a 4 and a 5. So you see a huge dump. And then by the end of it, they're usually like an 8 or a 9, which is...
That's the way it should be, yeah.
Yes, because now you actually have some understanding of what's going on in the situation.
I asked about scenario training because I think it's best way to train someone's mentally to be ready for something like that. I did active shooter training for law enforcement. I'm not in law enforcement. There's a program that I took, and so the instructor said we went into this office building that hired them to do active shooter training. So people know how to react. Do you barricade? Do you run? Do you snap out of shock? Who's going to take charge? A lot of details. So they do one part where they put safety glasses on. They break up into the groups. There's an active shooter with a Nerf gun. And he comes out and he'll shoot. So he knows some people, right? So let's just say this woman's name is Alice. Alice was hiding behind the curtain. He goes, "Where are you, Alice? I'm going to fucking kill you." And she said when she heard that, the hair on the back of her neck fucking stood up.
Yeah.
She's like, I almost like broke down, started crying. And that's like what can happen in real life.
100%.
And I think that's why scenario training is so important. I'm in real estate. I would love to have a program to really teach realtors, especially women realtors, their targets, for indoor self-defense.
Yep.
You know, and indoor, you don't have a lot of places to run.
Right.
So any realtors, female realtors, take jiu-jitsu class. Because in the small, enclosed space, you're going to get knocked down to the ground.
But keep distance. Keep distance.
So we actually did that. We ran a few self-defense courses for realtors when we first opened. You know what it's just the hardest part is people don't know what they don't know. It's convincing people like you actually need this.
Yeah.
So attendance for us is we had great attendance for the first 2 that we did, and then after that it started to taper off dramatically. Plus we weren't getting people to make the commitment after the self-defense class. And I always lead, so we do self-defense classes all the time. I always make sure to tell people like self-defense classes are fucking bullshit. They're really just to give you an introduction, and then if you are actually truly want to do self-defense, consistent training, because that at the end of the day is the end all be all, right? But it's so funny to watch people do a self-defense class and then think that they're going to be okay, and you're trying repeatedly to be like, you're not going to remember this, especially when you're panicked and it really matters, right? So,
and that right there is the most important time is when it happens, you panicked.
Yeah. What's
your response time?
Yeah.
And some people freeze up.
Yeah.
It takes 10, 20 seconds. Some people snap out of it right away and already have a plan. And I think that's important to train. When I work with realtors, investors in real estate, when I pull up to the house and I know the house is vacant, I put together a plan.
Yeah.
I pull up to the house and I look at the windows.
Yeah.
I just sit there. Maybe I turn the music on so they can hear me. Sometimes
Give
there are
someone a chance to
squatters.
get out.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are drug dealers.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a homeless person sleeping.
Sometimes you just find weapons sitting on the fucking floor.
I've come across that.
Dang, really?
Yeah. And I was like, so I pull up, I give them an opportunity because most people just want to get away.
Yeah.
They don't want to fight you. They don't want altercation. They're already scared because they know that they broke the law or whatever. Then when I open the front door to go into the house, I leave the door open. I want to get the fuck out of there.
Right.
If I'm getting attacked or somebody's chasing me, I want to have an escape plan. If I close the door behind me, now I'm trapped.
Yep.
Now my next step is use my skills, or if they have weapon, I have to reach for a weapon, right? So,
and that's real life, and that's just what people should do.
That's just reality.
That's
Yeah,
not like a scare tactic. That's just, you get up and you put on clothes before you go outside.
That's why I love martial arts schools that do scenario training because I think it best prepares you for those situations. It might not be exact, but it's close.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Do you have time slots where it's specifically just for law enforcement?
So we do. It's very similar to like how our women's class works. So some law enforcement, this is not the academy, guys, but some law enforcement don't feel comfortable initially rolling with the general public.
Sure.
Which totally makes sense.
Absolutely.
So we do have a law enforcement class. Now, the instruction there is specifically towards things that they're going to see in law enforcement. It's not like a regular jiu-jitsu class. But we also use that to make them feel comfortable in the setting and hopefully segue them away from that just to training in regular classes. But yeah, we'll have them come in with BDU so they'll wear gear on. We'll go over different cuffing scenarios. We'll go on 2-on-1 drills, 3-on-1 drills, and things like that. So it's
I like
fun.
That.
Yeah.
You have any volunteers from a regular class to be a victim?
I'm sure some of the guys were wishing they were getting volunteered for that, but no.
I need 3 volunteers for getting cuffed.
Yeah, like what? Why is it us 3 every time? Yeah.
What is camaraderie like in the classroom?
So everybody, even though we're so big, so something I wanted to avoid at the gym is I didn't want it to turn into cliques because I've seen it make places toxic eventually over time. So we really try to have an atmosphere where everybody, even though we're ball busting, is trying to make everybody better. So the way that I look at training is the faster I can make a new person at least okay at jiu-jitsu, the faster I have a new training partner that's worth a damn. So everybody is pretty good about helping each other out and
That's
keeping
good.
everybody
I
included.
know sometimes like Army will talk shit about Navy.
Yeah. And so we're gonna have all
Troopers
of that all
talk
the
shit
time.
about the sheriff.
Yeah. All the time. How much do those troopers make? Those sons of bitches are just writing tickets. Yeah, I know. So the ball busting's there, but everybody does it. The ball busting is that's how you know people are comfortable. So when somebody comes in, you're probably not gonna bust their balls too bad because you're not sure how.
Unless you're us.
Exactly. Exactly.
You just tell them, hey, I don't want you to go home and cry.
But at the end of the day, y'all have the same goal.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just good amount of ball busting, but it's never taken to a point where it's if it becomes negative, then we've got fucking issues.
When,
for sure.
when you have students also that have reached like a good leadership levels, you can't be everywhere at once.
Yes.
So you rely on those students to kind of keep the same kind of atmosphere, same space and comfort for other students. Ball busting, but don't cross the line, right?
Yes.
Like,
They understand the culture. They sort of help you cultivate.
Yeah.
And it keeps egos in check. Because I will say, one of the most empowering things, which is awesome about jiu-jitsu, I know if I walk into a room and let's say there's no weapons involved and it's going to be a one-on-one fight, I'm going to kill 99% of the people out there.
Yep.
Like, there's literally nothing you can do. It'll be like I'm dealing with a baby. But
Can you imagine throwing a baby around?
But it is one of those things, like, sometimes that can go to people's head, and that's why I also think the ball busting is important, because it doesn't allow that ego to get out of control, and same thing, just toxic eventually. So
every time in all the arts I've studied, anytime an instructor was sparring against me, I loved it. I was like, all right, I'm going to get my ass kicked. But let me see how long I can.
But you're never going to get better if you don't play against better.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, you need someone. When I took a
And when you think you're great, that's when you're losing, because you're never going to be good enough.
No, and if you ever have a mentality where you think you're good enough, eventually somebody's going to come up and beat you at it. Like I said, we have multiple now world champions at the gym. World medalists at the gym. And it's one of those things, if they ever feel like they're good enough, well, then I know they're never going to place again.
Yeah.
So you got to keep people hungry ever. You are just never good enough.
Yep.
And that art has so much to learn. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is it? 8 to 10 years for black belt?
So that's kind of what it used to be. That's what it is turning into. Mm-hmm. Some of that is because instruction is so much better with the amount of instruction that you can buy online and things like that. Mm-hmm. I would say it really, really depends. I hate to put a number on it. Mm-hmm. So
I'm just saying average.
Average, I would say like 10 years is a good average for people.
For a black belt. Yeah. So when someone tells me they're black belt in jiu-jitsu, automatically I'm like, okay, they got 10 years of experience.
Right, yeah, they fucking dedicated.
Automatically.
Yep.
It's not like, all right, you've attended this long, take this test, you know what I mean?
Because some it could be like a couple of years for black belts in some factions here.
So very rare. So there's the nice thing about the IBJJF is there is minimums on black belts so that so karate's become Americanized. It's sold like you pay your 2 years and you're getting a black belt for your kid, right? You cannot even get a blue belt in jiu-jitsu until you're 16, and you can't get a black belt until you're 18. And then they have minimum years that you have to be at the belt, regardless of how good you are, before you can get to the next belt.
So there's hard numbers there.
It keeps the sport from getting diluted too fast.
Yep.
Now, there are mutants out there, and now we're starting to see kids come up through that have been training for 10 years now because jiu-jitsu's been around, and they're smoking black belts, but it's just how it is.
How is it in your class when a new white belt rolls with somebody with experience?
So the big thing is the way I typically don't allow people to submit new guys when they come in unless they are extremely spazzy, and that's just to put it in their eye. Mm-hmm. So typically what I always do with somebody when they're new, and what I try to have my guys doing when we come in, we let them kind of spaz around us a little bit. We're going to put them into a guard eventually because they're going to screw up and move too much. Mm-hmm. We're going to sweep, go to top, and then I'm going to mount you, and I'm going to hold you there. And I'm going to start to slowly put pressure on you and escalate that pressure over like 30 seconds. You're going to start to see that fear come in their eyes, and then they'll go slow forever after that. You don't have to worry about the spaz after that.
I hate when they just plop on you and just lay there. When I first started training jiu-jitsu,
Wait, we talking about people or?
yeah, there was this one guy, much heavier than I am, and I'm a fat fuck. And he just laid on me. And I started trying to get away, and wrestling kind of kicked in my head. I'm like, I'm going to get exhausted, and he's just going to fucking...
Yeah, but he's already exhausted. That's why he's fucking laying on you.
Well, that was the thing.
Maybe. Or he might just be squishing him because sometimes that's
That was
fun
the thing,
too.
because we first started moving around. Then he got me in a position where he like laid on top, and he's been doing it longer than I have. I'm like, well, I'm not going to move too.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lay there. So when he starts to move, I'm going to look for the
100%,
opportunity.
yeah.
So if he's not putting any effort in, why am I getting exhausted?
New people don't typically know that.
Yeah.
And that's how you see him go, oh.
Yeah. And by the way, tap, please.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
when you're rolling with somebody and they feel like your threshold is much higher, then you let them know. And the next thing they know, you're passed out and you can fucking tap.
Yep.
And I think injuries happen that way. People,
100%,
guys
yeah.
kind of want to push the limit, or the ego is too high.
And so depending on where you train, the rule in our gym is if you ever get to a submission and your partner's being too stupid to tap, you just fucking let it go.
Let it go.
I know that's not always the issue everywhere, but you do have to find a happy medium where you have to be able to trust your training partners both ways, right? Like you have to be able to tap when you know you're caught and vice versa.
That's a good training partner. And hopefully that training partner lets you go and then slaps you and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, why did you let it go this far?
Yeah.
And that's somebody I would want to roll with.
Yes.
Although I'm the first one, like, it hurts a little bit. I'm not like,
Let go of my ear.
What's the
Let go of my ear.
What's the point, right? Like, why am I pushing it so far? I'm not like going for a medal. I've learned my mistake here. All right, let's work on that. You have kids?
Yes, yep. I've got 3 daughters.
No, I mean like kids, students.
Oh, yes. I've got kids too. Yeah, we got a lot of kids. The kids are interesting because kids pick it up so much faster than the adults. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But
Because you don't have to unfuck anything.
there's nothing, and their minds are so plastic. The only downside that is they forget so fast sometimes.
Yeah.
It's crazy too. So we run a curriculum at our school. Typically what we teach in one class, we show in every one of that like same class, equivalent class all week. So they get the same exact thing, and then we build off of it over and over in time, which is fun with the kids because it's when you start, because they pick it up so quick, you'll see kids that are like gray belts, which is just like the second belt in jiu-jitsu for kids, that will look as good as like blue and purple belt adults. It's like unreal to watch how smooth kids can get and how quickly.
It's like a fresh canvas.
Oh, it's amazing. I love the kids. Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Until they come back and be like, you fucking forgot everything.
And that happens. But we have a couple of kids right now. Like, I'm like, thank God you weigh 100 pounds and you're not my size, because you would be beating the shit out of me.
Right.
Crazy to watch.
So you have students who want to compete, and is that any special training for that?
So
outside of regular classes?
So we do have comp classes, but I try to force everybody to compete. So what I never want to happen is the training space where we spar to become the competition space. Right. So if you have everybody coming up trying to win training, then nobody's getting better. That's actually the fastest way to kill progression. So even people who come into my gym with zero plans of competing, I'm going to be busting on their balls to try and get them to go out there and at least do one, because it puts training in a different light for them. Now it's like, oh, training is for skill acquisition. It's not to fucking beat my buddy. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I care about is when you hit black belt is if you can beat other black belts. I don't care about anything else.
Yep.
So,
and that really shows a skill level and the quality of the school too, or outside of time, what kind of commitment that student has put into getting that black belt.
yes. Yep.
Sorry, I was searching for words. But the kids program is awesome. So you have kids, you have women, separate women, or mix.
Yep.
Women.
They get to pick? Like
Women can. Yeah, they can pick. They can either choose to just do the women's class. They can do mixed classes. We've got a teens class because in jiu-jitsu, that seems to be like the hardest age group to keep is 13 through 17. And when you turn 13 and you're moving out of the kids class, it's intimidating to want to go with the adult class, right?
Yep.
So we do have a teens class, which has been great, segueing kids from the regular kids class into the adult class eventually.
That's good.
So
that makes the transition easier,
way easier,
and keeps more students in.
It does. So our first year and a half, we didn't have that, and we were just losing kids in mass exodus once they hit like 13. They're just
too bad.
It's too bad too, because the interesting thing is, so at that time, if we had a 13-year-old come in and try class for the first time and it was in the adult class, they're fine. They're used to that, right? But they get all this talent and all this skill level in the regular kids class, but then they let that mental portion get in the way when they go into adult class and end up quitting. It was always interesting.
Plus, it shows you give a shit. I mean, we're actually concerned and we're aware that this may be difficult, so let's help transition that.
Yes.
You know?
Good to like you recognizing the problem.
Yeah.
And you finding the solutions to it. And not that it's like a bad problem. It's just not knowing that need that different transition.
Yeah. Yep.
So speaking of kids, you do a nonprofit?
Yeah, so we do a nonprofit.
I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so the nonprofit is fun. So me, Jason Iorio, and a couple of others, we put together this nonprofit where we have kids in the inner city training with law enforcement, basically taking like an introductory jiu-jitsu class. So we got to work with the Syracuse Pal Association, and we would have basically, like I said, inner city kids come in with their parents. The kids would come take that introductory class with the law enforcement, and we were hoping to just change the dynamic for law enforcement and kids. Because, I mean, I hate, this is going to sound awful, and I'm always told not to say this, but there does come a point when it's just diminishing returns with how much effort you need to put into somebody to turn them around, essentially, right? So the earlier that we can get in with kids and show them that law enforcement is really here for you guys and not against you guys, and change that dynamic, I think it has a much better positive outcome for kids.
I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was going to touch on. It's so important with social media, the kids, what they're exposed to, and you know how algorithm is.
Yeah.
You know, the kids cop did something bad. They watched that video for more than 3 seconds. Now the algorithm is going to keep feeding them. Cops are bad.
It's not just kids. It's
I know, I understand, but it's easier to manipulate kids' mind. But having that space where kids at the younger age can interact with law enforcement and interact with them in learning jiu-jitsu and really being close, they will not have that fear or that I don't want to call the cops or cops are bad. It really sets a different dynamic and really puts them in the comfort zone, knowing that they're there to help you, like you said.
Yes, and I think so. This is twofold. So I think because jiu-jitsu is so physical, that you do develop like a deeper connection with people because it's literally hands-on. So like when we opened up the gym right after COVID, our kids' classes exploded, I think really because of that reason. Nobody was allowed to touch each other, social distancing up the wazoo, and people do crave to that physical contact, right? So I think with the jiu-jitsu with the kids, just because it is literally like, I'm going to throw you and then you're going to throw me, there's like this, you just develop a better relationship with people, I think, based on that. Just
isolation for people is not good, but for kids it's even worse.
Right.
And I think during COVID, kids with isolation really suffered mentally.
Yeah.
And I think there was a study done about that, not just making the shit up. But it's good. And it's not only good for kids to feel comfortable with cops, but for cops to properly deal with the kids. It's like a two-way street.
Especially in Syracuse right now, because a lot of the gangs use the kids to commit the crimes because of the way laws and stuff work. It's a mess. And the other thing that was nice too is, and I wasn't actually expecting this, it does make sense now looking back, but it changed the view for the parents. Parents are like, oh, because this is all volunteer, even for the police officers. They're not getting paid. And we would have, we had FBI agents there, DEA agents. We had every local police department. We're sending at least 1 or 2 officers. So you have officers literally from everywhere coming in and giving time to the kids. And it was funny, like, basically the parents would be like, oh, this cop looked like a skinhead, but he actually, like, wants to hang out and help.
Perception is
huge.
Changes,
That's important. And how many kids or what's the participation been like in that nonprofit?
So the hardest part is honestly just getting the kids in who actually need it. So when we were working with Syracuse Pal, they have a good group of kids. Now they are inner city kids who, deal with all that stuff, but we were getting like 15 to 20 kids for each one of those. We've been trying to find a nonprofit like a Boys and Girls Club type thing in the city where we can start to really bring in more at-risk younger youth. It's just been very difficult to get into schools and specifically get in. At-risk youth are at risk for a reason, right? So it's hard to get them in to do anything that would benefit them anyways. So we're averaging usually 15 to 20 a class. We've put on 8 classes so far. I would like to put on more than that and get in more of the kids that should be coming in, but it's just chugging along. So
Yeah, and you're encouraging other schools to do stuff like that.
yes, we did one at Baldwinsville, and we did. There's a I cannot remember the name of the school, but basically there's a school in Syracuse that's. It's not exactly a private school, but they ended up busing the kids out twice for our program, which was pretty cool. I cannot remember the name of the kids, the school program. But anyways, we've dealt with other schools just besides like inner city schools as well.
Well, startups are tough. I mean, you got to stay with it, and maybe this thing will grow for you guys. And
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, so everybody we're all doing very, very well. This is just a passion project for us. So like in the truest sense of the non-for-profit, like none of us are getting paid or taking money on the side or anything like that. So
And that's the attitude of community building. Just like we're doing here in Baldwinsville, it can spread and go further boundaries. For your law enforcement program, what is long-term goal for that outcome?
Yeah,
besides just getting police trained.
Well, so it is policy change at the end of the day. So we're really hoping when we publish the longitudinal portion of the study, because really at the end of the day, it just becomes of how much money we can save a department, regardless of how good this is for them, right? So if somebody just brings a complaint against an officer and the lawyers have to look at it and they have to go through the whole spiel, that's 15 to 20 grand. That doesn't include settlement or anything like that if it ends up going that far. That 15 to 20 grand typically will cover more than an entire academy for this. So we just have to be able to show that we even prevent one of these, and then we can push this to be implemented across the nation. Now, we are in the hardest state to do this, which is good and bad, right? So if we end up being able to do all of this, this will catch fire everywhere else because of the way New York works.
If you can do this in a hard state, how much easier it is. And such a small no denying, the money's involved. Small financial investment for a larger savings outcome.
Exactly.
It's crazy. I mean,
larger savings on the police department part, but like just as a human, what you're getting out of the training.
I know, but we can't. That doesn't change politicians' minds.
Exactly.
but it's going to be about money.
But it could be about the people participating in it.
Listen,
change their minds.
The outcome for the person.
100%. All those net benefits should matter, but they don't.
Yeah.
So, and like when we were originally doing all of the research and making the pitches, we actually had to only make this because it's in New York State about the suspects and not about law enforcement. As awful as that sounds, like they weren't really caring if this was going to be saving law enforcement. How is it affecting the bottom line, and how is it affecting?
Yeah, great fucking state. We don't care about all you fuckers that are paying the taxes and supporting everything. It's just the people that are shitbags.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's political arguments has to be that way,
Yes.
and has to be a financial benefit.
Yes.
And there's unfortunately no way around it. And they're going to look at it as, does it support my view, and is it good for business?
And does it prevent people from getting lit on fire in the fucking subway?
Yeah.
Oh my!
Because all that other shit apparently is working really well.
I couldn't believe I heard about that too.
It happened like 2 or 3 times.
Oh, 2 or 3 times?
Yeah.
I only heard one incident.
There's 2 or 3 times. Now they got like, I think they're going to have 24-hour police officers down there.
Any interaction from someone in New York City?
So we did have the AG's office come out and watch our program. I think it was our 3rd academy class in. They loved it, which is part of the reason why we do have a pseudo long-term contract with the Syracuse Police Department. So we've been going for the last 3 years, and we have them until 2027 before we have to look at this thing again.
So 2027. After that, you guys look at the stats?
Yeah, so Clark Petrie out of the Naval Academy, he's the one that's doing the research on that. So basically, anybody who's been through the program, we watch for a 5-year period. So we are hoping maybe around 2028, 2029, we'll have statistical relevance. So enough people have gone through the program that even if somebody wanted to complain about it, like, no, the numbers are rock hard. Like, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
So as soon as we can go with the longitudinal portion of it, then the plan is we'll go present in Congress and we'll be like, we need more training 2 times a week for officers forever as long as you're on the job. Have not completely decided whether we will push like you have to go through our program. I would rather not go that way so I don't have to train however many X people out there to do this. I cannot remember what state it is right now, but one of the states has implemented where they will pay officers 1 hour of overtime to go train at one of the vetted local jiu-jitsu schools, which is awesome. And that in my opinion would be one of the best ways to go with it.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, find a good local school and train through there.
Yeah.
That's good. And then your school has expanded here locally?
So kind of. So I'm really big on growing the team and helping everybody out of the team. So we have, even though I've only been going for 3 years, we do have 3 affiliates. So one of my brown belts just opened up a gym in Oswego, which has been kicking butt too. He's got the biggest gym ever jiu-jitsu gym in Oswego, which is awesome. We've got a guy in Geneva, Jerry, who's killing it, and we've got a guy in Binghamton, Dickie, who's also killing it.
That's awesome. So those are all your ex-students?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay,
which
cool.
is really cool because at the end of the day, like, I do want to retire eventually, and the cool way to be retiring would be like I'm overseeing all of my students, like big affiliation gym, and
it's hard to be involved in everything and continue to grow.
Yes.
Your mind, your body can only take so much, and you have a family.
Yes.
You said you have 3 daughters. Are they training?
Yes, they have to. They don't have a choice.
What are their names? I'll tell my son to stay away from them.
For Christmas, you get a membership. You get a membership.
I've learned that in business, in order for business to grow, sometimes you need to step back and kind of see the bigger picture and use the resources and ideas to continue to grow.
If you micromanage everything, there's just not enough hours in the day at the end of the day.
Something else is going to suffer for sure.
100%.
And you're constantly going to be stressed and losing sleep.
Yes.
So they're not. Are they Haven schools or like so?
So I don't own them at all. Basically, they run their own programs, but when we compete and everything like that, we do it as a team. They come in for team trainings.
Okay.
I'll go out there and do seminars. They can come in and do, when we bring in like some world champions to do seminars at our school, they can all come in, check it out, and things like that. So while like if somebody has a membership at my gym, they can't train at the other one like for free or anything like that.
I see.
We do discounts and we do team training and things like that.
Okay, so that's what the affiliation is.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
got it. And what's the belt level? You said brown.
Yep.
So is brown like the level from when you can actually open the school and start teaching?
So no, blue belt is technically what it is. And it also depends on the area. So I'm going to use my Geneva affiliate as an example. So this is Jerry. He's a lifelong martial artist. He's done Kung Fu. I think he's got a black belt in like 3 other martial arts for literally 40 years. So he had been with me for 7 years, and he was a blue belt at the time because I typically only promote based on how many tournaments and things you're doing. I don't usually do it by like attendance or anything like that. But because he had been teaching, which is its own skill set entirely his entire life, I was okay with him starting a jiu-jitsu program at blue belt. And he was only a blue belt for like 2 or 3 months before he was bumped to purple. So because it's different skill sets for different things, like coaching and teaching is its own skill set compared to competing, sometimes that gets factored in. Like there's not another blue belt at my gym that I would allow to open up a program, but because Jerry had been teaching martial arts literally his whole life, that's completely different. But typically I feel comfortable with people running like a solo program. Brown and up is usually okay. Yeah.
I find that when you teach, you also learn.
100%, yeah.
And I think that for your advancement scale or levels of advancement, you need to gain the skill of teaching. Because when, like, I teach somebody, I'm like, oh, actually, what if this happened? You know what I mean?
And it shows how well you actually know
Yeah.
the technique.
Yeah.
If you can break it down into its simplest form, then you know the technique.
Yeah. It's like also, so his name is Jerry in Geneva?
Yes, yeah,
Jerry.
Jerry Martin, yeah.
So I would use that as an example for languages. So when you know more than 2 languages, the third language kind of easier to learn. So when you know multiple arts and you've taught teaching another art or catching that art and really absorbing the skills is also faster,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And plus, even though he's an old guy, he's a savage. Like he took I think he took second at Worlds last year, so he's an animal anyways.
Nice.
But yeah, good dude.
I love seeing actors that, like, what's Tom Hardy?
Yeah. Tom Hardy's getting into jiu-jitsu and beating the shit out of
He's
blue
a
belts
great
out there.
fucking actor.
So
by the
Tom
way.
Hardy, blue belt, did a competition, did not have, I might be wrong, let me know, not a single point scored against him, right?
Killed it, yeah.
And everybody's like, who the fuck is this? Here's a surprising
He's
one.
Bane from Batman.
yeah. Well, how are you gonna beat Bane?
Here's a surprise. Here's a surprising one. A Facebook owner, what's his name?
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg
Yeah.
is doing jiu-jitsu, and he competed, and then the guy was like,
That one's fucked up though.
I think I got beat by Zuckerberg.
What?
So Zuck loses actually, and Zuck bitches about it, and the ref is like, "Hold on, let's take a look."
yeah.
Oh,
And they
really?
did some more time onto the match.
So they fact check his.
Oh, asshole.
Yeah.
I thought he was honest.
Now, listen. I will say he is training. So Dave Camarillo, I believe, is like one of his main coaches. He's an OG, like one of the best ever. He, do you guys remember John Fitch from the UFC? Fought GSP forever ago. He was ranked number 2 a long time ago. Actually taught here randomly for a few months.
Oh, really?
Anyways, he was his jiu-jitsu coach. Dave's the man. So Zuckerberg does train with good people.
I'm not saying he's not a good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But I was like, the way he told the story.
Yeah.
I'm gonna censor your account.
He
you
was
fuckers.
like, yeah, I didn't put my last name. I just put like initial or whatever. And then I kept my hat on, my mask. He's like, then I roll with this guy. And then this guy was like, I think I just got bit by Mark Zuckerberg.
He's got that fucked up hair,
And his
right?
coach is like, what?
Now he does. Yeah.
He was like, my coach was like, get in there, kick his ass. He goes, he already beat me. So is that the term you use in jiu-jitsu, coach, or?
That's the term I prefer. So most schools, and this is just due to honestly a translation thing, call their coaches professor, and that's just the literal translation from Brazilian or Portuguese over to English. I just think it's weird in America to call people professor. Like coach is what it should be. In my opinion.
Okay. And then is there anything above black belt?
So yep, they have what's called like a red belt and coral belt, and that's just basically once you hit a certain amount of stripes. I believe it's 7, and then you go to coral belt, and then I think it's like 9 or something like that is red belt. But I think that literally takes like
40 years.
So you got to be Jerry. You gotta be
Yeah.
Jerry. to
40
get-
years.
Exactly. I told him you won't even be alive to get it. So
And you're like what, like master or something, right? With a red
It's
belt.
a posthumous belt.
Yeah.
Posthumously, you just fucking.
Yeah. I've studied different arts, and when I reached Kali, I didn't care about the belt.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling. Like, I don't. So in Kali, you don't get a belt. They call it sash. It's
Okay.
like a thing that you tie because it's like a islander thing, So Kali comes from Philippines. I didn't care. Like 8 years of training. I don't know what sash I am.
Did you
I've
get a
never-
belt? You never had a sash?
I've never received it.
You never even got your sash?
Never.
The fuck?
And I was 100% okay with it because,
So you're fucking. Is it a gi?
well, how do you?
So it's just flapped open now because you have no
So-
fucking sash?
there is no gi.
What are you wearing?
How do you compete in sport that is a combat to like kill somebody? Like it's not. I don't think it's an art you compete in. Like Krav Maga, you don't
there's-
compete
yeah,
in
lots of
Krav Maga,
sports.
right?
So if you went out and used your skills to kill someone, they'd be like, oh, cool, now you get a belt because you killed someone.
No, I don't get it. No, that's not the factor
Might
for
get
your.
some costs. I don't know what about that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have belts, but I got knives. I got scars.
You're going to get belted.
No, but it's just my over years, I kind of maybe as I became more mature, I look at it differently. And like I said, I look at martial arts differently. I don't. I would never say Tai Chi is for self-defense.
Yeah. And I'm a Strada advocate. I wish we could get rid of belts in jiu-jitsu anyways. I wish they'd treat it like wrestling. Like in wrestling, you know who's good, you know who's not. You know what coaches are good, you know who's not. And you don't need a belt that tells somebody who's good.
In wrestling, it's how many medals you have.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, My guy's always going to tell you, if you ask any of my guys, like, belts don't matter. Moderately okay is one of our sayings to kind of keep the ego in check. But I typically only promote based on where I think you're going to place in tournament. So if you have to be a white belt forever just because you're not progressing to the level to be competitive with a blue belt, then that's just what you're going to be, because the belt doesn't make you better. So who gives a fuck at the end of the day?
So strictly talent. There's no weight or age brackets.
So that's what's nice about that's actually the best thing about competition in jiu-jitsu. So it's the only sport that I know of that you can do like this, where you can do it at any age. So they do it by age group, belt level, and weight. And
no gender, like a guy can go.
And gender. But every 5 years is a different division. So you are always with peers, which I can't think of anything else like this that would ever be like that. So our 100-year-old Jerry, like I was talking about before, I think he's in like what's called Masters 6 or 7 division. But he is going against peers, which is awesome.
Yep. Good.
So
good.
That's cool.
Yep.
Ben, do you want to add anything? One more question.
Yeah.
The name Haven, where did that come from? I forgot to ask you at the beginning.
So me and a friend of mine, and this is going back years and years and years and years before we decided to open, we had been talking about opening our own gym together. And it was one of those things, we were spitballing names, and Haven was one of them that we came up with. And that one kind of like always stuck with me. And it's a safe place in the truest sense of a safe place. Like, it is a place where you're going to bust balls, where you're going to feel comfortable, where you're learning how to protect yourself and things like that. And so when I was thinking of names that I wanted to use to open up my own gym, like, I was like, Haven, like, that's what I'm going with.
Stuck.
That's stuck. That's stuck.
It's good. I have friends who in jiu-jitsu, and they mention you.
Yeah.
They mention your school. A good friend of mine, he's been on our podcast, Carlos. He's like, there's Haven School like close to you. I was like, oh, really? So looked into that. And then another friend of mine was like, he was training somewhere else. He kept moving to different schools. I was like, why don't you come try Haven? It's not that far. I mean, if you're driving to those schools, why not try this school? But it's pretty cool. I like the name of it.
Thanks,
Thank you for what you're doing for people, for community, for kids, for law enforcement. You're really touching on really good things. I'm hoping. Do you bring like guests into your school?
Yeah. So we recently had Jason Rao and Brandon Reed in, who are considered like some of the best in the world at jiu-jitsu. We've had them come into our gym and things like that. Trying to get Jay Wadsworth. I went through his EFC program, which is specifically a law enforcement defensive tactics program, which is honestly probably one of the best, period. That would probably be a great one to be implemented across the board. I've been trying to get him to come out and do it for not just law enforcement, but for civilians, because I think it'd be cool for civilians to see what it's like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we bring
anybody overseas or different countries.
I haven't brought in anybody overseas, but in all seriousness, except for like a few, everybody who is world class has moved to the States. So very, there aren't too many people I would bring in from overseas.
Anybody from Canada?
So Brandon Reed that we brought in is from Canada.
He's from Canada.
Well, it's going to be one of our states.
Yeah, soon. 51st state. That in Greenland. I can't wait.
My dream sometime in the future is to be able to collaborate with multiple martial artist professionals and longtime practitioners to not so much compare each other's art, but to collaborate and be like, I love this move in jiu-jitsu. With the Kali view, I see this other opportunity to slip something else in. What do you think? So it's a collaboration of I don't want to say leaders in art, but higher level practitioners in art, and just really talk to each other. And it's maybe a conversation that how long you been practicing?
20 years.
20 years. So someone who's been practicing for 20 years, that's been doing this art, just had a conversation with somebody from a different Muay Thai or whatever. It was like, that's kind of interesting. Maybe you never thought of that because you're not coming from that background. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that, I'm sorry.
That would be awesome if it would happen. A lot of egos involved in that, but also I think MMA has helped with that immensely. Do you know who Eric Paulson is? So Eric Paulson is an OG MMA guy. Was Brock Lesnar's MMA coach for a little while, and Josh Barnett, some other big MMA names. Very much a part of like, we're just going to take everything from everywhere to make my guys good.
So
at
I feel like MMA touched on that.
Yes.
And when I moved here in 2007 to Baldwinsville area. And I was like, I'm going to go try some MMA schools. I just didn't get a good vibe.
You won't. That's why I don't teach MMA at my gym. I fought MMA, but the vibe, I 100% agree.
And I'm like, it's either let's see how good you are, or no attention to you at all,
Let's
or very like high ego.
I'm going to show you how good you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love MMA. I love what they did, but why such a outcome towards other people who are curious, interested, even questioning, like whatever, have a conversation about it. So I think MMA did that, but I hope to see it in the future in a more open and collaborative environment, so that people are interested in that.
Yeah.
Because it creates a good community.
Yes, it does.
You know?
Yes.
And I'm glad I was introduced to jiu-jitsu. I'm glad I'm learning. And I tell this to my son and anybody, I will study martial arts my whole life.
Yeah.
I started from Greco wrestling when I was a kid, did boxing, and since then, over 28 years, I've been studying martial arts that I just love it.
Yeah, I
think it's going to be my whole life until physically I can't do it.
Greco's tough. Greco's a lot of
Greco is
throwing no legs.
Yeah. That's why I'm not going to throw you.
I want to freestyle.
So just a small tangent. Our oldest member at the gym is either 72 or 73 now. He's been grappling his whole life, mainly Greco. The guy kills me. I don't think he's learned a single jiu-jitsu move since he's been at our gym, but he just loves tying up with people who go on the feet, do some Greco. Then you literally have to just help him down to the ground.
Is he big upper body?
No, he's broken, but he just can't not do it. Yeah. He's a guy that he's so old and broken that he can't get his rash guard off, so you got to help him. It's hilarious. So,
do you find any? I know we wanted to wrap it up. Sorry. Do you find students who have wrestling background having a hard time with jiu-jitsu adjustment?
Depends on the type of wrestler they were.
Okay.
Some have a really hard time just getting used to not getting pinned, so they'll go belly down a lot of the time and get themselves choked. Or their shot setup will get them stuck in guillotines a lot. But we've had plenty of wrestlers who've come in who are great mat wrestlers, and I don't know if it's just the type of wrestling game that they have, that they're not putting their heads in bad spots or not worried about not going belly down. I think now that there is actually some real money in jiu-jitsu. We just had that $1 million tournament this year. A lot of pros now are actually being able to make a living just by competing, which is not really something you can do in wrestling right now. We're seeing a mass transfer of wrestlers. Jason Nolf or whatever, great, fantastic wrestler is now going to be doing jiu-jitsu.
Oh, nice.
Just more money.
Yeah, I imagine Greco's probably got to be the toughest for you as far as coming to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, because there's no mat wrestling at that point in time. But honestly, clinch throws are fantastic compared to people who are taking shots and things like that.
But freestyle is probably good, well-rounded.
Not just Greco, but people from judo who coming from judo also do throws.
Yep.
What your thought on ankle locks?
So I love foot locks, ankle locks, and all that. I'm never going to be somebody that shits on a move, because if it works, it works.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is, so this is for everything, but especially true in jiu-jitsu, you see metas, and you'll see things that basically peak for a couple of years and start to come down. Footlocks were hugely popular in jiu-jitsu when everybody was playing catch-up besides the Danaher guys. Now everybody is caught up. So that's why you've started to see, you can always see it with like the people who are top 5 in their weight class. That's where you want to find out where the meta is going. So if you watch guys like Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, and things like that, a lot less focused on footlock and a lot more focused on getting to mount, arm triangles, and things of that nature. So it always goes first.
Danaher had some kind of a foot technique he developed, right?
Yeah. Well, so he didn't develop. So footlocks had big taboo in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So some of the old myth goes it was because there was a kind of Sambo made rule sets against jiu-jitsu guys, and jiu-jitsu guys made rule sets against Sambo. I don't know if that's entirely true. Kind of sounds BS. But I will say Brazilians hated footlocks in tournaments back in the early 2000s and late 90s. So there was big taboo in the training rooms. Danaher said, fuck that. Like, that's what's winning in tournaments. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And he fucking went with it.
Yeah.
So good for him.
I think if I'm quoting him correctly, he said people were using that as a backup move.
Yeah.
Right? Did he say something like that?
So he said, why ignore 50%?
Oh,
of the
that's
body?
right. That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know. I didn't remember
No, that's
exact word. It's been so long ago. He mentioned something like that, and but he was like a hardcore. Is he the guy who like slept in gyms and?
So,
the
I
way
mean, so one of the big jokes, and this is not to piss off any viewers, but if you guys get into jiu-jitsu, basically anybody who's high level at jiu-jitsu is a little bit autistic, and Craig Jones goes into that quite often. Danaher definitely has something wrong with him, but anybody who achieves, like, if you can achieve the pinnacle in any sport, there's something wrong with you, period. So he's one of those guys.
Yeah, you're just wired differently.
Well,
for sure.
it's like
you have to be.
it's like the people who like Elon Musk or Zuckerberg, right? Like there's something wrong.
Yeah, they're not normal.
Yeah, like,
how come those two aren't boxing?
They did challenge each
They were
other.
gonna. I don't know. What
yeah,
happened.
was it jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, Elon would have got his ass kicked,
Yeah.
but that's fine.
I feel the same way because you look at Zuckerberg, he's not skinny like he used to be.
He trained for real. Elon said he did judo or some shit, but he looked pudgy as fuck. He wasn't.
I think he would get
That's our
winded.
next podcast. Pudgy as fuck.
Well, Ben, I love the art. I'm proponent of martial art. I always encourage people to pick one, grab one that's good for you, study it, and if you don't like it, find other ones. There's plenty to choose from. I love that you're in our backyard, and really want to, from both of us, thank you for coming in.
No, thank you guys.
And we really, we moved into this central space to be able to continue to give back to community, be part of the community. And are we the only podcast in Baldwinsville?
For sure.
That I know of.
Yeah, that I know of as well.
And we want to just kind of continue partnering with business owners, promoting it, and helping out, and just kind of continue to grow.
And let people know how they can, or the best way to find you. I suppose you're on all these social medias.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, so Haven Jiu Jitsu on Instagram, cnyjujitsu.com is our website if anybody ever wants to come try out a class. We also have an online academy where everything that I typically show in class is already recorded and online. That's in CNY Jiu Jitsu. That's in the membership area. It's cheap. It's like $6 a month. But
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was probably honestly one of the first people. Actually, I know I was the first person locally to do that, but it was one of the things that set us apart at our gym too. So when I was talking about curriculum, sorry guys, going off tangent, but
That's okay.
So anybody who joins our gym for an extended membership, they all get access to that. We've had guest instructors that are on there that are world class, and they get, I think there's like 300 videos on there for tech.
It's not something you can only do remote learn.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah,
This is just if somebody wanted like extra technique. So I have students now that have left the gym. They go move to different parts of the country and stuff, but they still want to know what we're working on at our gym. So they join that, and
It's like
that.
continue education.
Yes, but you're not getting belted through me or anything.
Right. Yeah.
bullshit.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Got my black belt on YouTube.
Yes, exactly.
Well, again, thank you, Ben. We'll anytime anyone interested in jiu-jitsu and primarily jiu-jitsu, I'm going to send them your way. I have friends who also looking into opening their own jiu-jitsu school. So I really wish everybody the best. The more successful people around you, that's my belief, the more better off everybody
you gotta
is.
try harder. So either you do better, and it's better for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.